Everyone, welcome to Leadville and the first ever Leadville podcast live episode.
Leadville is, of course, the home of our presenting sponsor and one of the main reasons we're here at all, Fatty. And I mean, without Floyd's of Leadville, who knows? Would there have been a season 2? Would we be here in Leadville doing a live show at all? We owe Floyd's a big thanks for making this show happen, and a little later, we'll be hearing from some of Floyd's crew.
Howdy. In the meantime, all we ever talk about is the work leading up to the Leadville 100. But you know what is really rough for me is that something we never talk about. That is the recovery process after this 103.5 mile, 100-mile race.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. After doing just, 10 miles of Columbine today, I needed all the recovery I could get. After the Leadville 100, no matter how you did, there's a good chance you're going to have a rough time getting a good night's sleep. The ache, the caffeine, twitchy leg muscles, all that'll come out late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. You may have crossed the finish line, but there's a good chance your body will still think it's racing.
Yep, so this year I'm going to be attacking that post-race ache from a couple of vectors. I'm going to be hitting the Floyd's Recovery Mix ASAP after the race to help me recover. Then a couple of 50 milligram full spectrum soft gels before I go to bed. And I will see you Monday morning. No, I think it's going to make a difference. This approach worked well for me already this year after the Crusher and the Silver Rush too.
Mm-hmm. Same for me at the Cream Puff this past weekend, but be sure to check out Floyd's of Leadville. There are stores right here in town. In fact, if you want to go cruise for some CBD, they're our presenting sponsor. Otherwise, you can go to their website at floydsofleadville.com. Use that code FATTY at checkout for a 15% discount on your first 2 orders. And thanks again, Floyd's of Leadville, for sponsoring this show.
3, 2, 1.
Leadville, the podcast for the 100-mile mountain bike race, presented by Floyd's of Leadville. This is Season 2, Episode 22 of the show that breaks down, builds up, gets you ready, freaks you out for the highest and hardest one-day mountain bike race in the country. Everyone, welcome to this, our first ever Q&A live show.
And we are here at the Leadville Race Series retail store, which is, I would like to say, fully packed. We have every single chair taken, folks crowded into the back. Thanks so much for supporting the show, guys. Also, big thanks to Lifetime for letting us use this space, and double big thanks to Kelsey Conine and Michelle Duffy for taking care of us and making this super easy to do. Mm-hmm. And a big thanks to our audience. Yes, you guys sitting in the crowd, by which we mean also the ones who are sitting in the regular cars or doing the dishes, mowing the lawns, and listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify feed.
Yeah, it's been great to meet some people already today who download the podcast regularly and listen to it. So we want to thank you all for participating, being a part of this show. So how are we doing at the freak you out part of our little tagline? Pretty good?
I feel freaked out.
Oh, you're always freaked out.
How's the audience? Freaked out on a scale of 1 to 10?
I saw some nerves out there today. People are a little, worked up a little bit about what's coming this Saturday. It's all right. We're here to calm you down. We have Floyd here today. He's going to tell you how to remain calm at all times. So we want to introduce our guests that are going to be joining us for this show and adding some serious firepower to what we call the Leadville 100 podcast.
Yep. First of all, he has one of the 5 fastest times ever put down on this course. He's a gear super nerd, and he's looking for what I understand is a very fast time this Saturday. Canyon pro cyclist Jeremiah Bishop. Jeremiah, welcome.
Thanks, Patty. Thanks for having me.
So we're going to be asking you a little bit more about it, but anything you want to tell us in terms of predictions first, right off the bat?
Oh, you can't make predictions at this race. I mean,
sure you can.
There's some things that are sure to pan out similar to previous editions. Obviously there are things like coming back and hitting power line when you're just completely exhausted. It's a brutal climb, and that's a big factor in the race. But yeah, I mean, with the new faces that are coming to the race this year, it's actually a new race. So that makes it exciting, makes it interesting.
All right, well, we're going to ask you a little bit more about that. Next up, founder of D's Nuts, one of the honchos of Floyd's of Leadville, a retired pro who's still faster than many active pros. I'd love to see a head-to-head matchup between the two of you at some point. I would place my bet on Jeremiah. Sorry, Dave. Dave Zabriskie, welcome, man.
Hi. Hello. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here and see everybody.
And here.
And here.
No, I don't think you're hearing anyone. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have put that in
This
your mouth.
microphone makes me cross-eyed. I feel like a reindeer. But I'm good. Ready to go.
Okay. Just look out for the headlights. Don't get caught on them. And finally, retired pro cyclist and the man who personally puts the Floyd in Floyd's of Leadville and one of the driving forces behind CBD use in this sport, which business aside, I think is a huge contribution. Please welcome Floyd Landis.
Bow. Take a bow.
Busy day at the shop today, Floyd. We had a good day there.
Yeah, it was good. Thank you guys for setting that ride up and bringing everybody back there. I got sidetracked about halfway through, but it was good. We had fun.
Yeah, the store has been in existence how long now?
Well, it looks like a store now for the first time. I mean, it's existed for a long time, but people would often not know that it was a store.
It looked like a haunted shack. That's what he's saying.
It actually was haunted. I had a guy in there thought there was a devil living in the couch, and he, in the middle of the night, took the couch out onto the sidewalk, so I had to move it back in. But I think the devil's gone now.
You've probably seen the stores. You drive into town, stop by if you're around. Go, not only CBD products, but you have gloves and hats and stuff to wear on your bike and jerseys and all kinds of great stuff in the store. So
We also have a dispensary where we sell drugs, but those are bad.
That would be the part of the business not sponsoring the show. At least not yet. I'm not sure how that works. All right, well, so this is an episode for racers, for crew, for your race questions, and if you're the kind of person who thinks about the very distant future, next year's training. Because why not? Is it too soon to start training for the Leadville 2020?
Yes, it is.
So we're going to take some questions, of course, that were submitted earlier, as well as that come tonight through the live audience. Let's begin with one that was submitted from our exclusive, in air quotes, Leadville podcast poll.
Yeah, you didn't sell that very well. Exclusive Leadville podcast poll, right?
I could never do that.
Let's start off with a question I think all of you are going to have different answers for. That is, what is the most important advice you have for racers? That will go around this table 1-to-1, by the way. So what's the most important advice you have for racers? Floyd, start with you.
Yeah, like okay, I think I understand the question. Knowing when to quit is very important. Don't quit in the race per se, but sometimes knowing when to not try so hard in your training is useful.
How about during the race, though? Is there a time to know when to regulate?
No. In the race, just you have to
bury yourself. Okay. Dave, most important advice you think you'd have for a racer?
Man, this is so hard for this event because I like to have a nice relaxed morning, and that requires a lot of going to the bathroom. That's the hardest thing for me at these early morning races. So if you could figure out a way to speed that up, I tried to fast track it the first time I did this race, and it was a huge mistake. So don't recommend, I can't even remember the name of this stuff.
Coffee?
Ducalex. It's not good for you.
Okay, not for a bike race, no.
Especially the vibrations of mountain biking make it that much worse. So my advice is don't take a Ducalex.
Did you seriously take a rectal laxative before the Leadville 100?
I've never woke up that early and done a race. I figured it'd be a good time to test it out.
One other thing to remember is don't try something for the first time on race day.
Like Dukalax.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
So we've
Burn yours, Dave.
mercifully we've taken the mic away from Dave.
The day before. Yeah, that's all I got to say. Yeah, a lot of people try to do different things. I have a coaching company, Bishop Training. I do everything from personal training to training plans and things like that. And you talk to a lot of clients like before a big race, whether it be Leadville, whether it be Dirty Kansas. Some people, it's their home race in, the Crusher or like whatever it is, the big race that they have. It could be in their backyard. But yeah, they try to change things like in the last second or put something new on their bike or, dude, I need to try these new tires. I read this study. They're so fast. No. You just need to chill, relax, and go into it with a fresh,
Duplex.
a fresh Duplex. Yeah. Pooping is
fresh.
I know what you're talking about. And pooping is tough the morning of a race, especially if you fly to Europe. Then you're like pooping at like 2 a.m. If you arrive to Europe. Anyway,
At this point, I think it's best to eat a lot a couple days before and then not a lot the night before.
I would agree with that.
That's my
actually.
new technique for
yeah,
these.
I would totally
things.
agree with that.
We are keeping this episode so real. So I do have one thing that I consider the most important thing during the Leadville 100 race, and this happens during the part of the race that most people consider the crux of the race, the climb up to Columbine. Everyone I know stops enjoying eating during that part of the climb. You are exhausted, you're breathing super hard, you just don't want to eat. That is not the time to abandon your eating, drinking plan. It is the time to enforce it, to not give yourself the option. Keep eating, keep drinking at the pace that you promised yourself you would during the race. If you don't, then right around Twin Lakes inbound, all of a sudden you're going to find you don't have legs anymore. And that's a bad thing to find out 60 miles into a 103-mile bike race.
And I said this on the ride today, and you're going to hear this over and over, but it's worth repeating. The race begins. The ride is out to Columbine and back to Pipeline, and then you race. You're trying to get back to Pipeline with something in the tank. And at Pipeline, you've got almost 3 hours home, and that's when you race. You've got to have something there. You can't go out and go, I made it to Columbine, and go, well, I'm halfway done. Doesn't work. You're getting back to Pipeline and then hammer down. Come on home. And we'll see you at 6th and Harrison.
Awesome. So next question for the group. What's a common mistake you've seen Leadville racers or other big all-day racers make? Preferably something that could be fixed before race day.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I have an idea. This was actually Dave's idea, but it's cold in the morning. Remember that. So there's a thrift shop down the street with $10 coats that, bears and such might wear if you left it in the woods, maybe an hour in. You'd be a lot more comfortable if you understood what I just said.
Bears? Yeah, what? It's a disposable jacket. It's got pockets in the front. That was the idea. And then we just so then you're super cozy. You're not freezing, shivering, and then we just ditch the jackets as soon as we didn't need them.
Or hand them to a volunteer.
Well, yeah, as soon as you see somebody, it's not like we
There you
just
go.
threw it. Maybe he was talking about the bears at the dump wearing
Volunteer
the jackets.
bears.
Yeah.
If you want to see bears, go to the dump. It's a local.
Get there early, around 5.
Yeah. Is it my turn for a
Sure.
mistake
Yeah.
commonly made? I don't know. People make mistakes all the time. You gotta learn from those mistakes.
So not learning from them.
Don't repeat
If
your
you don't learn
mistakes.
from your mistakes, you're never going to progress as an athlete. I mean, yeah. So I can't preemptively envision your mistakes. They're all different. So, but when you feel like you're making that mistake, take a mental note and fix it next time. It's a good idea.
There you go.
I don't know how to follow up on this. This is just this is huge. I do want to go to the dump now to see the bears. Yeah, I'd say eating too much for breakfast often, or too heavy of a breakfast, because it is a bike race, and yeah, you're going to go up the first climb, and you're going to be pretty pinned trying to keep up with everybody. And it's very easy to either eat too close to the race or too much. You can eat pretty far out, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty tough waking up at 4 a.m. to eat. I actually go pretty light on that. But anyway, so I'd say that's one of them is it's more about fueling constantly throughout the race. That is a much bigger determiner. I could do this race with no breakfast, like no problem. But the fueling during has to be pretty aggressive and at the limit of what you can handle. And hopefully you've practiced it in training. So, and if you haven't practiced it in training, don't change anything now.
All right. And I'm going to go ahead and take one, and that is hard tires. That is a common mistake. Is there anyone here who is riding or planning to ride at 30 PSI or higher? Okay. You and I need to talk after the show. Okay.
That's the limit? That's the threshold?
Well, at 30 is, I can't imagine anyone who would need to be riding at 30 or above. Is there anyone riding at higher than 27? Okay, we'll continue from there. Mm-hmm. All right. 25 is about the highest that I would expect most people to ride at.
Yeah, that's about where I'll run. 24, 26.
There we go.
Well, I'm going to bounce off what Jeremiah said real quick because it'll get us into our sponsor, by the way, which is the feed coming up. But that is about fueling. And again, Roxanne Vogel, we've had on the show a number of times, talked about timing those meals leading up to race morning and how difficult it is, obviously, to get up at 3 a.m. and try to digest. She says actually your biggest meal before race time here at Leadville should be lunch and not dinner. So, that should be your last big meal, and then, some type of smallish dinner. And then if you can handle something, I love bacon, so I'm going to get up and I'm not racing, but if I were, there'd be bacon out because to me, food is mood, and I like to have bacon. So, but that way in the morning, you've digested everything in the morning. You could have something small, if nothing at all. Rebecca Rush, whose bike is sitting above us right here and has won this thing 4 times, doesn't eat breakfast either. She's not a good breakfast eater. Maybe a smoothie, but she knows as soon as she dumps down 6th, it's time to start figuring out what's in my pockets and going for that food because, time's up real soon if you can't stomach any type of breakfast in the morning. But again, that big meal probably should be lunch Friday.
All right, good stuff. So have I told you how many people are in my family racing the Leadville 100 this time?
There's one in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
There's me. What? There's more than one in the audience?
How big is your family?
Well, we are a Utah family.
Let's see. It's just hard to keep up with your clan, Fatty. That's all I know. I've had a time keeping up with the head count. I know this. There's at least 3.
That's right. So there's actually 5 of us. There's me, of course, the Hammer over here wearing the big belt buckle, our daughter Melissa, her boyfriend Jeff, and then Lisa again the following weekend as she does the Leadville 100 run.
That's only 4.
Yeah, but one of us is doing 2 Leadville 100s, so I think it's more than fair to count her twice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so yeah, Lisa's agreeing. So my point is, there is going to be a lot of racing happening in my family, and we all eat and race a little bit differently. I, of course, like my Morton mixes and gels, along with the Bulk Breaker Bar and Goo Roctane. But, that works for me. Lisa goes for water, Goo Roctane, Goo Gels. Melissa and Jeff are using Scratch Mix and Chews, SIS energy gels, as well as untapped waffles and syrup. We're all different, right? Mm-hmm. And we've all found what works for us. And you know what? We all do have one thing in common.
What's that?
Yeah, I was hoping you might ask that question. And that is the feed. You and I talk about the things that work for us so often. Sometimes I don't think that everyone realizes that there's a huge selection available at the feed. Whatever combo of food, gel, drink, supplements, lotions, all the things that you need for a successful race, you're going to find them at a great price with great support and expert advice at the feed.
And if you do choose to go with what works for Fatty, go to thefeed.com/Leadville to check out the pack and be sure to use the code Leadville15 for a 15% discount. You can also use that code for a 15% discount on your Morton purchases.
Yep. One last thing on that. Huge thanks to the feed for supplying a lot of bottles and hydration kits to our listeners at our little Columbine boondoggle earlier today.
All right. Back to our questions. And we've got one from somebody I met today. Jeff VDD, which is got it's an interesting backstory, actually. He ran a blog site all about cyclocross racing, and the VDD is for not venereal disease, but VDD is like every Belgian racer has the initials VDD, right? That's how the story goes. Yeah, VDD, Vanderpool. No, he's VDP. But anyhow, you get the point. Jeff, VDD, come up, sir, and ask your question.
Jeff van der Diefenbach.
And our lovely assistant,
Lisa.
producer's assistant, Lisa, will help you with the microphone, which requires a lot. Jeff.
So here's my question. What do the experts say about sleeping effectively at altitude, and what do you each do?
Fantastic. We're going to go ahead and start with Jeremiah on this one.
Yeah, I learned probably a few good tricks just on the road with some top pros. And it's also just good for inflammation in general aside from that, it's really good to have ice bath or cold bath before. And a part of that comes from your circadian rhythm, triggers off of core temperature. And if you lower your core temperature artificially, you'll sleep really well. That's a really good trick. Plenty of mountain streams to dip in around here. And if I have trouble sleeping, which night before races is pretty common, even for like pro riders that do it all the time, big races, no doubt you get nervous and you're all like trying to read or, figure out some way to get to sleep. That's definitely a good tip. Sometimes if I'm on the road and just sleeping terribly, I'll have a melatonin before bed, and it's pretty benign and something that I'm used to doing when I need to, and it seems to really help. I would definitely steer away from any other sleep medications, especially like any narcotic-based sleep medication or sleep aids. Even Benadryl, I think, makes you feel funny in the morning. That's just kind of my go-to. I try not to really give people advice on that. They can kind of steer their own course on that. But the ice bath, super, super big benefit.
I'm going to second what Jeremiah said with 2 words: turquoise lake. I'm not kidding. That thing is therapeutic. It's cold. It's actually not as cold as it's been. I was down there yesterday and I got in. My feet were puffy. I was feeling a little, full, and I got in that lake. Went for a swim, felt great afterwards. It does work. At the very least, it revives you, but it also, as Jeremiah said, will help reduce some of that inflammation. And inflammation is one of your enemies out here. I mean, you're trying to keep it at bay. It's a response. It's a natural response to what we do, but you're trying to control it as well.
It looks like you have something to say, Dave.
Yeah, sure. I was just thinking, I just thought of something new. Just artificially induced jet lag. So when's this race? Saturday?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wake up at like 3 on Friday, and then just fight through the day, have that late lunch, then you'll for sure be tired.
No, that doesn't work.
Huh? Yeah, it works.
I tried it.
So
yeah, jet lag's a real thing.
yes, it is. So
Make yourself tired.
and of course,
But if you're not tired, just don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about, I'm going to go to bed at 7, Friday night, because that's not going to work, because then you're going to lay there and freak out. So you want to just, if you go to bed at 10:30, usually lay down at 10:30 and just know that I'm not going to really get a lot of sleep, and I'm going to wake up and have a great day. Count your heartbeat. Dun, 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 dun. That's what I do too.
Is that what you did like during the heyday of racing racing pro?
Yeah,
I mean, it seems like sleeping would be a real problem. Floyd, I'd like to hear your thoughts on how did you sleep?
Yeah, sure. Here.
I don't know, man. Look, I never had any trouble sleeping, but I did try that strategy once because I was flying to Europe, and I also took some assistance, some Xanax or something. I can't remember, but so I woke up early in the morning, right? I woke up at like 2. I thought I'll just get a day head start on this. And then I had to lay over in Chicago, and then some jackass ran through the airport security, and we sat on the tarmac for like 12 hours, and I didn't get there for 2 days. And so don't do that. It did not work. Floyd, that part I know it didn't.
I heard a story about you, and I want to see if it's true or not, that you could after a stage in the tour or a big race, get off your bike, get changed out of your clothes, and go right to sleep. Is that true? Could you nap right
that
away?
might be an exaggeration. No, look, sleeping in different environments is really hard for some people, but I didn't have a problem with that, and that was a real advantage for me because I could just sort of lay down and sleep if it was a French hotel or whatever. They put us in the shittiest hotels, by the way.
In the
It's
middle
nice country, but shitty hotels.
Middle of summer, it's 105 out and you're falling asleep.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
So I never had problems with that, but I do know a lot of people that was a real issue, and I don't know what to tell you. Maybe look into another career.
CBD, that's what you tell them. CBD.
Yeah, no, CBD will help, but I don't know. I never had an issue with it.
All right.
All right.
Let's do another question. One that has been brought in through the audience, and this one has gotten a lot of upvotes, and I think that it is a great one to ask. The top tube splits, or the top tube splits for a sub 9, for example, are great. But how do you recommend gauging your progress in between each major aid station? Mm-hmm. That is, the reason I wanted to bring that one up is because I have a theory on this, and that is, you should remove the splits from your top tube. Okay, here's why. And I'm happy to hear counter arguments. You're looking incredulous, Hottie. Makes me happy. So suppose you miss your split and you are a little bit behind by the time you get to Twin Lakes Dam. What you going to do? Are you going to go ahead and ramp yourself up and kill yourself so that you get back on top of it by the time you get to Columbine? Maybe. And then how are you going to feel by the time you get, halfway to get back down to Pipeline? The thing is, I think that paying too much attention to the numbers on your top tube are going to freak you out more than this podcast does and make you so that you are going too hard in places where maybe you aren't feeling great and leaving you in a bad place for when maybe you were feeling better later. I would love to hear our expert panel's opinion, as well as Hottie, who is looking pretty...
Well, look, I always put top tube splits on. They were on my Specialized S-Works until I sold it to a member of the audience. In fact, that was the last thing I did to it, is to tear off the splits for my Leadville time. I mean, what you can do is, instead of putting an exact time when you need to be at Pipeline app on, you put a window there. So you give yourself some room for, well, if things go right, I hope to be here then. If things go wrong, as late as here, and I maybe can still make my end goal. So you don't have to be precise with them and then tie yourself and then, put yourself into a hole right away if you make a small mistake.
Yep. Peaks and valleys, you're going to have them. If you miss your split on one thing and then put yourself into a hole trying to dig yourself out of the previous hole, you're going to wind up with two big holes. I think that sounded kind of smart. Any agreement on that? Expert panel, yes or no?
Look,
what do you do?
I think it's a personality thing. I think a lot of people benefit from having objectives that, look, it's a long bike ride, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some people take 12. I've never ridden my bike 12 hours, by the way, ever. And wouldn't. I would be happy to quit at 9, but people do. And it helps to have an objective along the way. And I think that, you could maybe, because you're tired, think to yourself, you got to make it up. But if you know beforehand, this is what it should take between these two, and this is what it should take between those two. Maybe you just need like a digital one that adjusts over time. I think it's helpful to have objectives and know what they are. And when you're riding that hard, you can't really memorize them. It's better to have it written down. You get something to look at. I think it has value.
Well, Dave Zabriskie, great TTer.
He doesn't.
When you would map out a TT course and you were trying to hit splits, how did you handle those? How did you measure yourself in between splits? Did you rely on your team director just screaming at you?
I didn't do that.
You didn't?
You
just rode?
Just went fast.
Yep.
Yeah.
Should have guessed.
So fast. Yeah, because I didn't use a radio. I didn't like to hear anything. Yeah.
So how would you handle it here then?
What's that?
How would you handle splits here at Leadville?
I like your idea with the window. I just have a little bit of variability in there. So, if things go well, I'm doing all right. If things go bad, yada, yada, yada. Push. Never quit. Give yourself one of those mantras.
Mantra.
Mantra.
You write that.
And that mantra would be.
Oh yeah,
go
that
fast.
might even work better than the times.
Right.
Like on the Niner bikes, how it says "pedal, damn it." That's always cool.
I've got that.
So Jeremiah, I want to ask you, as someone who is going to be racing the Leadville 100 in just a couple of days, what's on your top tube?
Yeah, I haven't decided yet, but there'll be something on my top tube.
Will it be numbers? Is it a mantra? I mean, what?
I'm going with pedal, damn it. That's
You
a
write
good one.
Canyon though.
Dude, I was going to say that's the wrong company, man.
No, it's the mantra idea though. Just going with the mantra idea. You know, a lot of it just is keeping focus on the thing you need the most. If it's pedaling really smooth, if it's steady pressure on the pedals, whatever it is, or eat, whatever it
like
is.
that one.
And for me, like Breck Epic last year, I won the Breck Epic. It was really awesome. Now I'm doing Leadville Steamboat Gravel this year, but I wrote on the back of my number, full gas. And that was because each stage, even though it's a long race and a lot of stages, they're relatively short. And at the altitude, you don't want to like dig into that suffer hole, but you have to in order to pull time on the short stages. Anyway, so that was mine for that. And for, I don't know what it's going to be for this weekend, but my whole idea, or at least philosophy, is you have to race your bike and you have to feel what you have on the day. So I kind of like to judge the effort on what you've got today, not what you've got on your best day. Because sometimes just finishing is winning, and I think like you got to just go with what your day brings. I think you've got to just be a little organic with that effort. But I would just have, okay, this one's an hour and a half block. Okay, and then from power line back is 90 minutes from the top. So that's a good way to break it down. And
Can you do that kind of math on your bike?
no, just write it down ahead of time.
Okay. It's like, I can't do addition when
Right.
I'm
The other
riding.
thing to do with splits is you write, your elapsed time you think you should reach a point, and then the total time it should take between each station. And it gives yourself, even if you're not making your elapsed time, station to station, you can still focus in on those in between times. Those
Well, on
times
math.
in
You can
between.
focus on math.
Focus on the math and make it a little race. Make it a little race for yourself between Pipeline to Twin Lakes outbound. Hey, did I do my 45-minute, my 55-minute, whatever it was? So you can handle it that way.
Yeah. Great question from Chad Wilson. Thanks so much for posting that. Obviously, a lot of interest in that one.
I, of course, am speaking like I'm racing, which I am not. I'm actually Fatty's crew chief, as well as all his clan that are here too, racing. And I've been checking out your setup, Fatty, including today, both bike and race day essentials. And I've noticed a trend. A lot of Banjo Brothers. Tons. So let's get a Banjo Brothers bag count from you.
Okay, so I've got a saddlebag on each of the bikes that I brought, a third that I've got prepped just in case I have an emergency or feel like being a good Samaritan to someone who is less prepared. Plus, I've got my bright red, huge commuter backpack, which you were going to be using as you're crewing for me. And then there's the one I use just for day-to-day for carrying stuff around, like a bunch of microphones and lunch and everything else that I need to bring around. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so here's what it comes down to. Not only do I trust Banjo Brothers to carry my stuff every day, I trust them to carry my stuff multiple times every day in a lot of different ways.
And you can get 15% off your order by going to banjobrothers.com/fatty-favorites. Banjo Brothers is tough, practical, and affordable. They're based in Minneapolis, in business since 2003, and just good guys. And while we're talking about race day inventory here, Fatty, let's focus on one other thing from one of our supporters and ask this question. And I love this, Fatty. He actually wrote this line. Fatty, how Shimano are you?
I am pretty damn Shimano. So there is my A Triple Plus bike, which is my beautiful Specialized Epic hardtail with XTR across the board.
Which, by the way, you've kept hidden in the garage so far. He's not been riding it right now.
It's too beautiful for human eyes. I'm sorry. There's my workhorse, which is sort of an A+ bike, a Felt Doctrine with XT Di2 across the board. There's my wife's Specialized Epic full suspension, XT Di2 again. There's my wife's older Stumpy hardtail, which is actually not a Shimano bike except for the brakes, which are XT, because I want her to live and be able to stop. And
that's quite a list.
Yeah, and I'm not done. There's my glasses, my shoes, my base layer, my windproof jersey. I am, in fact, really loving Shimano, and that is just the stuff I brought with me to Leadville.
It's a company, Fatty, not a religion.
Yeah, you only say that because you haven't ridden with XTR yet.
Hey, Fatty, I know you live in Utah, but it's no longer just a Shimano SRAM world. Some people call this toxic Shimanoism.
Not while we're doing a Shimano spot, Floyd.
All right, you can check out the vast array of Shimano gear by going to bike.shimano.com. We'll also have a link in the show notes for this episode at leadville100podcast.com.
They drop you, we'll make that up.
It's cool, man. We got you covered.
We love Shimano. We really do. They've been great to us.
Okay, Jeremiah, turn off Floyd's mic, would you?
No, hey, look, I don't have any disposition at all on any of it. Shimano's great.
Thank you.
It's good, yeah.
Okay, cut everything out except for him saying Shimano's great. Perfect. So Jeremiah, you and I talked a little bit off air, and of course you put in one of the fastest times ever put down on this course. How are you feeling about this year?
That's going to be a bike race. Team BF showing up is going to definitely make interesting dynamic. I have no idea how seriously these guys are taking the race.
What does BF stand for?
BF? EF.
Whatever.
Education first.
Oh, yeah, right.
So what do you think, Dave? You think they're going to be like just trying to finish?
Yeah, I don't think they're. The thing is, they're not. They're road bikers, so they can go hard that first hour, but mountain bikers can pin it for the whole event, which is they're not used to that all out. And they just don't care. Like they're just here to like take some pictures and look at us.
Yeah, have you seen their jerseys? They don't care.
So I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah, I rode with them at Dirty Kansas, and they looked like they cared. They looked like they cared. They were.
It's pretend care.
Yeah.
It's like how you have to pretend you're depressed in Belgium.
Yeah.
It's
a
the
thing.
Same thing. I really.
People actually are depressed there.
Yeah, they are depressed in Belgium. It's kind of rainy and dark.
He was
And
pretending to be.
yeah.
I was pretending, trying to fit in.
Well, anyway, yeah. Back to the competition and back to the race. It's like, yeah, one of those things where I'm not too wound up on this one.
They're bringing Howes, Finney, and Lachlan.
Yeah.
Lachlan's got like trench foot. He's been doing these super long distance things, so he's not going to be.
Yeah, it
super,
might slow him down.
Out of the three of them, I'd say Alex maybe. could
what
be
about Stetna?
decent. Oh yeah, he's not even on that EF, but yeah, he'll give it a try. Huh?
Yeah. I think Stetna is probably the biggest.
I'd say he cares more than those three.
Yeah, he likes to focus in on races.
Yeah.
You know, I can say I don't care, but when I go to the start line, then I suddenly care.
Whoa.
It just sort of turns on and then turns right back off, which is
Eventually
probably
that goes away.
Yeah. Okay.
So are you,
Takes some time.
Jeremiah, are you looking for those wheels? Are those the wheels you'll look for?
Oh, absolutely. And also Alex Grant, my former teammate, super fast.
He won the Tusher, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He beat Eddie Anderson and Alex Howes there, which is no small task. That one's a really pedally race, not a ton of.
I'd say it's harder than this one.
Yeah, you think it's harder?
It's only 69 miles with 10,000 feet. Like,
Yeah, more climbing. Yes, harder. I don't know. This one just drains you. It's
Hard
like,
in different ways for sure.
Yeah.
It's just draining, especially that last bit because you think you're done climbing and then it's climbing all the way up to town. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting race and it'll unfold. And that's kind of the way I look at it. I'm not really too set on it, but I'm going to be attentive and just try to, make it happen and see what we can do. Honestly, I'm able to roll the dice, because if those guys get split up, then it's just going to come down to who's riding the strongest that day.
Is that you?
I don't know.
What bike are you going to ride? I was thinking.
And that was my follow-up question. What is your bike setup for Saturday?
I thought about it and was really looking into it, but it's got a lot of very fast rough sections. So if it was like turny rough sections, maybe.
So I'm going to barge in for just a second because Floyd was a little bit off mic, but we were asking about which bike you were going to be riding with sort of the suggestion that maybe you were going to be riding a gravel bike, right?
Yeah, maybe.
The reason I thought about it is because I think if those EF guys, if you have a teammate or a couple teammates to help you and you had bikes that were that much faster, I think it would offset whatever downhill. Look, yeah, there's some rough down and you get beat up, but I think with I think somebody could really go fast with a cross bike.
Yeah, this idea is coming around. Well, Fatty and
Oh, I totally agree. And Floyd, I don't agree with a lot of what Floyd says, but
No one does.
this one I definitely agree on. If you had, like, everybody said, hey, let's ride gravel bikes, then on the flat sections between the big climbs, you would be making up gobs of time. And I've been jumping back and forth between the Grail and the Lux, which are two very different bikes. But the Grail is just super fast. It's like 17 pounds. So I'm climbing minutes faster. So it's something I've definitely considered heavily. And you'll just have to see what I ride on race day. And I'm leaning toward the Lux, though. It's just so much chance to flat. Canyon. So the Canyon Lux is a full suspension bike. So I've got that set up with some profile aero bars. And SRAM on this bike. It's actually a stock bike. So 9.0 comes in a SRAM and Shimano model. And I asked for a bike, and they sent me that one, and that's what I'm racing on. So, but yeah.
Well, that's a complete departure from your gravel bike idea. You're going full suspension mountain bike then, not in between with a hardtail.
Yeah, actually, full suspension mountain bike. I have the Exceed here as well. So that has 3 of the fastest 5 times on the course, the Exceed. But I like to be able to sit and crank. I mean, there's one thing that can be said for this course is there's a lot of flat, rough, bumpy pedaling. And your muscles have to take up that shock if your suspension doesn't. So I've tried both bikes, all 3 bikes, and yeah, I'm just more familiar with the full suspension. And really that just comes down to me having a fun race and having a fun time out there and feeling very confident in my setup. So yeah, I mean, I could jump on the hardtail, which I haven't been riding at all. But why would I do that to myself?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Dave? What would you ride?
Yeah.
If you were so.
Well, Dave is an interesting case because Dave, the first time I ran into Dave Zabriskie on a ride, he was the first guy that I ever saw what looked like today's gravel bike. That was long before I ever raced here, and we were at the Santa Monica 100. And Dave showed up on an aluminum niner with drop bars and mechanical disc brakes. And shredded.
Oh, that was
Santa Monica 100.
Man, that was years ago.
That was years ago. And that was the first iteration of a gravel bike I ever saw. But Dave, what do you think about a gravel bike here on this course?
I got 2 mics. I like this one. Yeah, I think today's gravel bikes that hold bigger and bigger tires, I think, is definitely capable of handling a course like this. I mean, Open just made a bike that'll hold a 2.4. Mm-hmm. So I mean, and then they also make they have little suspension stems. You can add all these other little things in there, like it's so you could definitely run one of those bikes on this thing. Yeah, they do this, dude.
They can't see you on the podcast, Dave.
Oh yeah, well,
his finger is going up and down. And it's really awesome visual.
Yeah.
Of course, Fatty, today Dave had more suspension than anybody on our Columbine ride
Combined,
today. Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
He had more than the
That was
rest of
quite a
us
bike he was
combined.
on.
Yes. Yeah. So interesting stuff. So it sounds like you aren't going to give us a full commitment on which bike you're riding, or are
but
you?
with the
I can't.
because they groomed that power line, maybe that'll play into your decision, Jeremiah.
Love to see the Grail.
Yeah, I think it's back to that old adage of just trying new things like right at the last second. Not my style.
But somebody like you've thought about this. You pre-planned. You're not like me. You're not going to wake up and just think.
If I didn't care, but I actually like I'm like riding okay right now, so I thought I might give it a shot.
Suspenseful.
Yeah.
It is. I'm glad we went down this road. So here's one that came in from guest 042. That seems like someone who doesn't want to read it themselves. So I'm going to read it for you. In your opinion, what effort constitutes burning a match? Yeah. You've heard.
I've ever heard. I don't even know how to answer that.
That got upvoted a lot.
All right, you can answer it.
I guess there's so many ways you could put that, but I guess some people call them bullets, some people call them firecrackers. This guy's calling it a match. Is it a weatherproof match or just a regular match? We don't know. So I mean, technically, a match would be something that you could recover from, go really hard and then recover a little bit and then continue on. And how many matches that person has, we don't know. I used to have an unlimited amount almost. So I guess you got to know how many matches you have. You got to estimate, I only got 10, then you better be careful. If you got 100, you have some fun. I tell it to my kids, like, you got a candle you're burning. You got to burn it fairly slowly. And every now and then, like at the finish line, you got to firecrack it. Just so, yeah.
Is that when you tie all the firecrackers together?
Well, yeah, I mean, the younger one, he just loves firecracker. And he doesn't know how many he's got, so he's always firecracking.
I got to tell you, Hadi, I was absolutely convinced we were going to edit out this part of the show, but that actually made a ton of sense.
Yeah. How many matches do you have?
Yeah, you got to know. You got to know what you got. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them.
Now we edit that out, because that makes no sense.
Yeah.
Kenny Rogers on this show? No thanks.
All right, let's go to the next spot. You know how long I've been here, Hadi?
Sunday or over the weekend?
I
or
have
something?
been here since Sunday. And, resting, acclimating, or actually completely failing to rest and acclimate. I got into town and they were having the Boomtown parade thing, and I avoided that and went straight to the fish hatchery and rode up Power Line, down Sugarloaf, up May Queen, and then came back the way I went. Mm-hmm. I thought that would be a good way to start my week of tapering in Leadville.
Yeah, they call you Mr. Taper, don't they?
Yeah, I'm super smart about
so
stuff
balanced.
like that.
Let's ride Columbine on the Wednesday before the race.
Yeah. The fact is, I'm having fun, and that's really kind of what I'm enjoying. What I like doing this year. But you want to know why I'm doing that?
Tell us why, please.
It's Powerline. I am loving Powerline right now. Who here has ridden Powerline since they've gotten to Leadville? All right, no, let's by applause will help more than hands in a podcast. So here's why. The climbs are as punishing as they've ever been, but the Envy M525 wheels have given me way more confidence coming down Powerline, Sugarloaf, and today, Columbine. I am actually passing one or two people. I think that's a first for me.
Oh, yeah, love those Envy wheels.
Well, I rolled my Envy wheels at the Cascade Cream Puff over the weekend in Oregon, and I was glad to have them as well. The climbing at that race, I don't know if you folks have done it, really caught me off guard, especially there's this opening 12-mile gravel grind. I'm like, what is this? I thought it was all about single track and running through the forest, but no, I had to do a lot of climbing, so I was really glad to be on my Envy wheels as well. Glad to be on something light and responsive like Envy has. You can learn more about all of Envy's wheels and components, many of which seem like they're made with the Leadville 100 in mind, but which can pretty much handle anything you throw at them on any terrain at Envy. That is ENVE.com.
Yep, that is absolutely right. So, Hadi, I've got a question for you. You've done this race racing for yourself. You've raced it supporting a friend. You've raced it as a spectator. You've raced it or I guess you have crewed as crew in chief. For people like me who've never done anything but race this race, what's your favorite? What's the best way to enjoy Leadville?
Well, my favorite thing at Leadville, my favorite spot in Leadville is that alternate feed zone. Now, it's hard to race this race and then go out there and just hang at the alternate feed zone all day because you don't get a buckle that way. So I really enjoy being out there at that alternate feed zone, and my one crew chief time is arguably my most memorable time here. Just being out there, supporting a team of riders coming through, helping them achieve goals, enjoying the atmosphere. It's hard when you're riding and racing to stop all the action and go and look around. You just can't. These three guys will tell you that too. Like, it's hard to take it all in when you're screaming down Columbine at 35, 40 miles an hour. But when you're there standing still, watching other people go by you at 20 to 30 miles per hour, you can take it all in, and you do absorb the atmosphere of this place. Yeah, racing it, does it become a permanent part of you? I mean, Leadville comes up every day in conversation, somehow, some way. All
For
you gotta
me,
do-
it definitely does.
All you got to do
yes.
is do it once. And if you add some of these other things about it, hanging out, going to Floyd's, doing some crewing, volunteering, whatever. So to me, some of the greatest moments aren't the moments in motion, but the moments standing still here.
Absolutely. So, Floyd, Dave, I know you've done a lot of hard racing in your lives. You've also done Leadville pretty mellow. What's more fun?
Yeah, Leadville's pretty fun. I mean, the first time I did it on a hardtail with a front
With a
shock.
skin suit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the second time I used a full suspension with dropper. That was a lot more fun. Just because I didn't want to cramp up on those long downhills. Just wanted to sit there and relax. So I had more fun. But interesting, my times were like within a minute of each other, separate bikes. But one
Wow.
instance was the first, the problem that we discussed earlier. The second time was no problem. I still within a minute a different. It's fascinating stats. But yeah, it's a great race. Love. You can have a good time with it. It's nice. All those people that do go to the feed zones. There's a lot of them. They cheer everybody on. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely. So, same question for you, Jeremiah. Most fun you've ever had on this course?
I'd say the most fun I ever had on the course racing it. It's kind of a loaded question because every year is something new and different. But I remember one year I raced with Albin Christian and Christoph Sauser. And so it was like all the top marathon racers in the world were there. Soren Nielsen, who's from Europe, was also here. And yeah, just racing with that level crew was really neat and really fun to be in the mix and to be able to affect the outcome of the race as a team. I think that was probably one of my favorites because we had a lot of camaraderie and we were working together and it was almost like a team time trial. We really put it down. And yeah, it was just super fun. I think the fun of actually the scene in all the other races, and one thing that I'll always remember is just the aid station, just all the people from all over the world with their flags and their go team dad T-shirts and all the glitter that the kids write on the signs and just the level of party that's taking place. Some people are out there drinking beer, and some people are one guy tried to hand me a hot dog on Columbine.
On the Columbine Klein. I remember that year.
Sure it was a hot dog, dude?
I think it was a hot dog. I couldn't even see straight, but I just remember thinking,
He was wearing a tux.
I can't breathe. I cannot, if I put it in my mouth, I would die right there on the spot of, asphyxiation. But anyway, just the scene. Honestly, that's what brings me back. The race is very much the same as it's been for a long, long time. And there's not a lot of single track out there. And if you know me well, then I like to either race or I like to ride some really awesome trail. But what does bring me back is the scene, the atmosphere, and the amount of energy that people put into the race. And that's super cool. So yeah, that's definitely it for me.
The energy of this race is something that most normal, citizen racers like us, I'm pointing at the audience here, we don't get to enjoy that often, and it is a heady experience. Make sure, as you are suffering this Saturday, that you take a little time to enjoy that energy. It is incredible.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Long before he was a super pro roadie, our main supporter here, Floyd Landis, was a mountain bike racer, and he showed up to some mountain bike races on equipment that made clunkers look high-tech. So, Floyd, for you, what gear is out there right now that you wish you had back then when you were throwing it down on mountain bike races?
Oh, man, without any question, disc brakes. Yeah, it's not even close.
Mm-hmm.
The bikes are it's a whole different sport now when you ride mountain bikes than it was then, but those are basically just road bikes with different geometry and some brakes that didn't work. It was good. I was a kid, right? So I didn't care if I crashed. Then you get good at bike handling pretty quickly. You don't have a choice. But no, the brakes are huge. Okay, the suspension's all great, but even a rigid bike now with disc brakes is a whole different experience.
Yeah.
That's my one serious answer. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I've never ridden a clunker bike.
You've ridden just a niner with drop bars. That's it. Yeah, that's as clunker as it got for Dave.
So how about you? Early days, biggest improvement in mountain bikes, Jeremiah? Yeah, absolutely. You're not that young.
Suspension. Yeah, I mean, Floyd and I started racing at about the same time. In fact, we were at a couple of races together. He was kicking my ass for sure. So I don't know if we could say we raced together. I kind of started on the same start line as him. But yeah, I know I could clearly remember racing in Pennsylvania. You were in the wife beater and had the jean shorts on.
Jean shorts, man, come on.
You wearing jean shorts? Sweatpants. Well,
Jesus.
you know, the seam on the jean shorts would probably be a game changer. Chamois would be the answer to your question of biggest improvement if you wore jean shorts.
Fair enough. That wasn't part of the bike. I didn't even think.
Yeah, suspension I think is pretty awesome because he said disc brakes already. Oh yeah, disc brakes are phenomenal. I'd say in the past 5 years, dropper posts, unbelievable difference. It's so wild to be able to get your body weight down, especially if you're riding a steep single track in Breck or rocks in Virginia. Just getting your body weight lower to turn and just play on the bike. I mean, it's just a much more playful feeling. And yeah, you see a lot more racers using those now. So, I mean, the sport has just changed like gobs since we started. I mean, the tubeless and all this other stuff, but
Brakes, dude.
brakes.
Brake, suspension, both definitely big thing. So where's Jim from Minneapolis?
Or Minnesota.
MN.
MN is Minnesota.
Jim from MN.
Oh, he submitted a question and didn't show up to the Q&A?
Yeah, he couldn't
He's got a
make it.
good one, too.
I'll pretend to be him.
I'm going to have you answer Jim's question, actually.
Yeah.
So what is the worst song that you have ever had stuck in your head during a race? He asks also for you to sing it, but I'm not going to do that because we don't need that.
Man, I have like a whole iTunes library in here. I can't remember. That's impossible. Like serious. So many songs get stuck in there.
Really? So do you have songs stuck in your head on a frequent basis?
All the time.
Is there a particular genre that tends to show up?
No.
No, you got a whole range.
It's all different. Yeah.
All right, fantastic.
Yeah, sometimes it's just like a sitcom jingle too. I get that. Yeah.
Seinfeld or
Three's
Friends?
Company. All kinds.
Three's Company. Oh,
old school?
yes.
I Love Lucy.
Britney Spears, that's the worst one I ever had in my head.
Did you? Go ahead. Hum a few bars.
What song? At least let us know what song.
It's probably
Toxic?
It's probably that hit me, baby.
Hit me, baby.
Hit me, baby.
Okay, Floyd. Same for you. Worst song stuck in your head.
I can't even participate in this conversation. I don't know what's going on.
Floyd hit the karaoke scene pretty hard for a few years.
Yeah.
Hottie.
Oh, I don't embed poor songs in my brain. I try not to. I mean, stuff gets stuck up there after mixing podcasts and stuff, but I can't think of one that got in my head and went, oh, this is awful. I have to flush it somehow. So I do pretty good. Come On Eileen was something we messed around with on our other show recently, and that was circulating in my head for a couple of days, but that's not all that bad.
It's not that good either.
No.
I will say, and this isn't bad, I have had, and I would love to hear if anyone else has had this, the Leadville podcast theme song going through my head as of recent.
Theme song?
We do.
We do.
Well, it's not actually. It's a tune.
Yeah, certain songs are good for Alzheimer's patients. So if you start losing your memory, they should play that song for you. You can remember.
We're going to play that pronto.
It can trigger the brain. Yeah.
If you're good at sticking a song into your head, allow me to recommend Red Hot Chili Peppers' Parallel Universe. I don't believe there's a better song to ride to.
Thrash metal works.
You thrash metal?
Sure.
Super surprised.
Or old school heavy metal.
Wheeler Walker Jr.
You and Lisa are going to have to talk.
Scorpions.
Oh, yeah.
UFO. There we go.
All right.
All right, I guess we got to wrap up the show, huh? It's
suppose.
about an hour.
You guys mind if I freestyle a bit here?
Have you been doing that all along?
No.
Are you going to beatbox?
All right, we're going to wrap up Leadville's live Q&A episode of the Leadville podcast presented by Floyd's of Leadville. If you'd like to see us back for season 3 or any type of podcast, just do us a favor. Give us a 5-star rating and review over at Apple Podcasts. That's going to give us what we need to go back to our sponsors, say, hey, our listeners are engaged. They like us. Also, share the show with your other cycling friends, the ones who ask about this crazy race you're doing this weekend, and support our sponsors. Let them know you appreciate them making this show possible.
Yep. One last big thanks to Floyd, DZ here, Jeremiah, and especially thank all of you for coming to this live show. And thanks to everyone who's been listening to this last 2 seasons of our little show.
And again, thanks to the people who are not here, who are listening on earbuds or in their cars. We appreciate the kind words and support both online and in person.
So we've still got a few more episodes coming up this season talking about how the race went for folks. So start watching for those just next week. Till then, good luck in your race. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you Saturday at the finish line.